Okay, so without further ado, let us begin, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأصلي وأسلم على من بعث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters, and welcome to part number 27 of our Quranic synopsis, where we are going through the entire Quran juz by juz, covering all that is within it. I say all, but most. I say most, but some. I say some, but even less than that, I think. But inshallah, giving us a good sort of working map as to how the Quran has been put together, inshallah. And therefore, when we do decide to read it for ourselves, we are not wholly lost when reciting it, inshallah ta'ala. So without further ado, let us pick up from where we left off yesterday. Now, yesterday we stopped off at Surah Al-Qaf, and we didn't actually begin Qaf. So let us cover that, inshallah, very briefly, and go on to the following surahs of part number 27, inshallah ta'ala. So Surah Qaf was an early Meccan surah, one of the earliest to be revealed, and it describes the plight of the disbelievers in Jahannam with some really, really scary imagery. And it sort of paints a picture, and this picture is almost like it's coming to life. There are conversations taking place between the disbelievers and between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and between the disbelievers one to another as well. So it really sets the scene for those who deny the resurrection, which is really what the subject matter is about. So it starts off with Qaf wal Qur'an al-Majid, swearing by the Qur'an. بل عجبوا أن جاءهم منذر منهم فقال الكافرون هذا شيء عجيب. They are at a loss, and they find it extraordinarily strange, right? Out of this world almost, that a messenger has been sent from among them to warn them. فقالوا هذا شيء عجيب. فقال الكافرون هذا شيء عجيب. So they say to him, this is a very, very strange thing. هذا شيء عجيب. This is something, and this something, which we don't quite get, is very strange. So it's strangeness upon strangeness, nakara upon nakara, unknown upon unknown. أَإِذَا مِتْنَا وَكُنَّا تُرَابًا ذَلِكَ رَجْعٌ بَعِيدٌ. And they say, when we die and our bodies are turned to dust, that is a distant, sort of far-fetched notion that we are ever going to return from that. قَدْ عَلِمْنَا مَا تَنْقُصُ الْأَرْضُ مِنْهُمْ وَعِنْدَنَا كِتَابٌ حَفِيظٌ بَلْ كَذَّبُوا بِالْحَقِّ لَمَّا جَاءَهُمْ فَهُمْ فِي أَمْرٍ مَرِيجٍ أَفَلَمْ يَنْظُرُوا. So it's like, okay, these guys, they're denying the hereafter, and they've denied messengers that have come before them, and there are people like them who have denied messengers that have come before them as well, and so on and so forth. أَفَلَمْ يَنْظُرُوا إِلَى السَّمَاءِ كَيْفَ بَنَيْنَاهَا وَزَيَّنَّاهَا مَا لَهَا مِنْ فُرُوجٍ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then directs their attention not to the messenger and to his message, but to everything around them. That look, Allah has created all of these things in His majesty, in His power, and in His might. He's able to put all of these things around you so that you can recognize that there is a creator. And if there is a creator, then there is a purpose behind this creation. And if there is a purpose behind this creation, we need to know that purpose. And the only way we're ever going to know that purpose is by Him sending us a messenger. And He has sent this messenger to you guys. And therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He sets out His argument like that. So He goes on to explain in the next few verses, the grandeur and the greatness of His, of how He has created the world around us. And then He talks about how previous messages have also been rejected. Right. So the Prophet ﷺ is not the first to come with this message. Previous messages have also been rejected. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ. This is a really good ayah, right? وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is closer to you than your jugular vein, حبل الوريد, right? So, and that is the sort of the artery or the vein that connects the blood from the heart to the brain. So giving you sort of whatever your thoughts are, right? Whatever your intentions are, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is closer to those things than you are even close to them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows, He created mankind, right? So He knows the inner whispers of mankind. He knows the inner whispers of His creation. He knows what they intend. He knows what they like. He knows what they're inclined to, and so on and so forth, right? نَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ. His own nafs is whispering to him. So we usually associate whispering with shaitan, right? Shaitan is one who comes and he whispers and entices us to do things, and then we go and do them. But here the nafs is also doing some whispering as well. And we said previously, and in sort of answering questions about how like the nafs and Ramadan and shaitan is supposed to be locked away, but we're still doing bad things, and we're still inclined to do bad things. That is the nafs whispering to you, whispering things that you have been habituated upon all your life. You've been doing it. These are habits that you've been doing, bad habits that you've been doing, bad habits that you cannot seem to get rid of no matter what happens. You don't want to backbite ever again. You hear what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says regarding those who backbite, how they'll be eating the flesh of their dead brothers and so on and so forth. All these things about the punishment in the hereafter. You want to stop backbiting. But every time someone's talking about something, or a juicy subject comes up about a relative, you can't help yourself but just get involved and reminisce on all of the things that have happened in the past and all the fights that you guys have had and so on and so forth. And you just go into it, right? And you just, no matter what happens, you can't. And then even if you remember after, it's like, astaghfirullah, I can't believe I did that. What a waste. And you just keep falling into it, keep falling into it. It's like a cycle. You don't know why. And this is a bad habit that your nafs has been habituated with. Your nafs loves this, right? Because maybe it feels some form of like gratification. Maybe it feels some sort of confirmation that you're somehow better than other people, or the people that you're backbiting with are somehow giving you praise through this backbiting and stuff like that. This is just a rough example, right? There are many, many different examples, probably better examples as well. But the point is, your nafs is in such a habit of doing that when the opportunity arises, you don't even know. You can't even control. You're just going into it, right? And so this is the whispers of your own nafs, right? If someone else was to ask you, backbiting is bad, you will say straight away, yes, absolutely. Astaghfirullah, the people who backbite is really, it's terrible. You yourself acknowledge that the thing that you are prone to do is a bad thing and that you shouldn't do it. But your nafs is, because it's so habituated to it, it ends up doing it anyway. And we said previously before, right, that the nafs is like a child, right? It just wants to do things that it knows how to do, that it's familiar with doing, that it loves doing, that knows it's going to have some form of control of. They know that they're good at it. And all the things that they're not so good at, or the new things, the new environments, new people, they're very sort of cagey. They're very, they don't want to do it. They prefer not to do it. They'll start crying if they do have to do it. Do you know what I mean? In order to try and get out of it and stuff like that, right? That's your nafs. Nafs is like a little baby. Treat it like a little baby and you will have some control over it. Treat it like an adult, right? Talking to it and, trying to convince it and so on and so forth. All of this stuff doesn't work with your nafs, right? Your nafs is way too smart. Way too like ziddi as well, right? It knows your soft spots. So it'll cry and cry and cry until you give into it, and then it's a slippery slope after that. Anyway, so that's the whispers of your nafs. Then it goes on to talk about the affairs of the hereafter. What's going to happen on Judgment Day? إذ يتلقى المتلقيان عن اليمين وعن الشمال قعيد. So ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. Sorry, it's the documenting of all of your deeds. Everything that you do, everything you say is written down by angels on your right and angels on your left. وجاءت سكرة الموت بالحق ذلك ما كنت منه تحيد. And then the affairs of death. Death is something that we are always running away from. ذلك ما كنت منه تحيد. That is something that you are constantly, sort of, if death is coming this way, you are running that way. You are constantly running away from it. But it's the inevitability that's going to come, man. It's the only thing that is inevitable. وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ, and then it's sort of like a chronological order of things, right? So you're in the dunya, your nafs, you're fighting with your nafs all the time. Mainly you're giving into it. And then all the times that you're giving into it, there are angels that are documenting all of these things that you're giving into and all of these things that you're doing from good and bad. And then death comes, so you are taken by death. وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ, then the trumpet is blown, and then you all awaken from your graves. ذَلِكَ يَوْمُ الْوَعِيدِ, that is the day that is promised to you. That's the day that's going to come, right? And that's the day that the kuffar are denying. وَجَاءَتْ كُلُّ نَفْسٍ مَعَهَا سَائِقٌ وَشَهِيدٌ, and every soul is going to come, every person is going to come with it, is going to be someone who's going to be a witness against it, and someone who's going to lead it, and that is the angels that are going to lead us to the mahshar, to the place where we're all going to gather together in front of Allah. That's the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah save us, inshallah. لَقَدْ كُنْتَ فِي غَفْلَةٍ مِّنْ هَذَا, you were very oblivious to what was going on. So all of this stuff is going on. Then there's a conversation that ensues between those people who are destined for the hellfire, right? They're like, وَقَالَ قَرِينُهُ هَذَا مَا لَدَيَّ عَتِيدٌ أَلْقِيَا فِي جَهَنَّمَ كُلَّ كَفَّارٍ عَنِيدٍ قَالَ قَرِينُهُ رَبَّنَا مَا أَطْغَيْتُهُ وَلَكِنْ كَانَ فِي ضَلَالٍ بَعِيدٍ. And, like the qareen. So we said before in previous surahs, right, that if you turn away from the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَمَنْ يَعْشُ عَنْ ذِكْرِ الرَّحْمَنِ نُقَيِّضْ لَهُ شَيْطَانًا فَهُوَ لَهُ قَرِينٌ, right? The horn, the guy who's your peer. So you and your peer from the jinn or from the ins or whoever it is, your peer, you guys are going to be together on Yawm al-Qiyamah. Your peer is going to say, I didn't misguide him. He did it on his own. So don't punish me with him, right? That's what the argument is going to be. They're going to be arguing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah is going to say, لا تختصموا لدي وَقَدْ قَدَّمْتُ إِلَيْكُمْ بِالْوَعِيدِ. Don't you dare argue in front of me in my presence. When I have sent before you, or before this day, I sent to you a warner. I sent to you a reminder. And I sent to you a promise that this is going to happen. And here you are, it's happening, and now you guys are arguing in front of me. مَا يُبَدَّلُ الْقَوْلُ لَدَيْهِ. My word is never changed. What I have decreed and what I have destined and what has happened, what has come to pass will never ever change. My judgment upon you is not to be changed. وَمَا أَنَا بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ. And I am not someone who oppresses his servants. يَوْمَ نَقُولُ لِجَهَنَّمَ هَلِ امْتَلَأْتِ وَتَقُولُ هَلْ مِن مَزِيدٍ. SubhanAllah. This is like one of the scariest ayat in the Qur'an. It is said to Jahannam, are you not full? Have you had your fair share of people falling into the fire? And the reply is there not any more? Can I not have more? هَلْ مِن مَزِيدٍ. SubhanAllah. And then it switches. SubhanAllah. Like this surah we're going through really, really like sort of quickly and stuff, but the way it jumps from one subject to another subject, and it's almost like instantaneous when there's supposed to be a massive like time gap between these events, but it's happening like so quickly, one thing after another, one thing after another, one thing after another, one scenario after another, one scenario after another. You're just at the end of it, and it's only like 45 ayahs long, right? At the end of it, you're just like, whoa, right? And this is the kind of imagery that is supposed to invoke in you. You're supposed to, after all of this, be like, subhanallah. And it's supposed to encourage you to change. That look, this is what's going to happen to you. This is what's going to be waiting for you. Do you want to be of these people? Or do you want to be of those who وَأُزْلِفَتِ الْجَنَّةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ غَيْرَ بَعِيدٍ. And Jannah is brought forth to, it's almost like Jannah is coming forward. We're going towards Jannah, but it's almost like Jannah is coming towards those who have taqwa in their hearts. هَذَا مَا تُوعَدُونَ لِكُلِّ أَوَّابٍ حَفِيظٍ. And then he goes on to praise those who have achieved it. And then at the end of this surah, it goes through a few other things, but at the end of this surah, نَحْنُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ وَمَا أَنْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِجَبَّارٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just reminds the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that, look, we know verily what they do. And we know what they are going to do as well, right? Because this is at the beginning of the Meccan period. And so we have the rest of the Meccan period where the persecution of the Muslims is going to happen. The life of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is going to be sort of threatened. They're going to kick him out of Mecca and his believing followers. They're going to attack them while they're in Medina. All this stuff is yet to happen, right? And this is like life and death stuff as well. This is right now, they're just ridiculing you, right? But the time is going to come where it's going to be like, you're going to be put to the sword. So, نَحْنُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ وَمَا أَنْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِجَبَّارٍ. But you are not there to sort of to be like sort of overpowering or tyrannical over them. You're not supposed to grab them by the scruff of the neck and drag them towards Iman. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who guides. Trust Allah. فَذَكِّرْ بِالْقُرْآنِ مَنْ يَخَافُ وَعِيدٍ. So remind with this Qur'an those who fear the onset of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised. Right? That is who you are supposed to be reminding. Whilst Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this, he's reminding the rest of mankind, though, is He not? Right? He's supposed to be reminding everybody. What that tells us is that whilst the reminder is for everyone, the people who will truly benefit from the reminder are those who يَخَافُ وَعِيدٍ. They are aware, they have taqwa, and they are aware of what is going to happen to them in the future. That concludes Surah Al-Qaf. Surah Qaf, sorry, I keep saying Alif al-Lam there. So Surah Qaf. Then we go into Surah Al-Dhariyat. Al-Dhariyat is the scattering winds, right? And it is one where sort of it talks about, or it begins with sort of the angels scattering the winds. And they come with sort of a glad tidings and ease, and they also come with judgment as well. And after swearing by these things, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He opines that whatever you guys have promised from the promises that have sort of preceded in the previous surah, la sadiq, this is the truth. Wa inna ad-deena lawaqi', and verily judgment is going to come no matter what. In this surah, it doesn't. So in the previous surah, it described the people of Jahannam first, and then it went on to describe the people of Jannah. In this surah, it's going to do the opposite. It's going to describe the people of Jahannam, of Jannah first, and then it's going to talk about stories of the people beforehand, Ibrahim, Musa, and others, whom were destroyed because of their rebuttal or denial of the hereafter and what the messengers were sent with. Because the messengers were essentially sent with three things. One was Tawheed, right? But even Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and worship Him in His oneness. The second was life after death, right? This is something that you got to believe in, and there's going to be a resurrection for you guys. So watch out what you guys do, right? Instilling in us a form of self-accountability, so that we're not going to oppress each other because no one else can see us oppressing, or because no one else has the power to stop us from oppressing. Rather, we know that whilst no one can stop us from doing it in this dunya, we know there's going to be accountability in the hereafter, so we abstain from bad things here in this world. And the third and final thing is obviously his messengership, right? I'm a messenger, so follow me, follow my commands, follow what I have ordained for you as being halal and haram. All of this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So here in these surahs, in this batch of surahs, it's all about the hereafter, establishing that the belief in the hereafter. And again, Al-Dhariyat again was another Meccan surah, another early Meccan surah around the time of Qaf, where Surah Qaf was revealed as well. So very similar in terms of its subject matter. Okay. So Ibrahim's story is here. Is there anything that we can pick out from here? فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ كَذَلِكَ مَا أَتَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ مِنْ رَسُولٍ إِلَّا قَالُوا سَاحِرٌ أَوْ مَجْنُونٌ. Okay, so after the stories of Ibrahim and Musa, yes, so the ending of the surah is all about the purpose of our creation. So فذكر فإن الذكرى تنفع المؤمنين وما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون ما أريد منهم من رزق وما أريد أن يطعمون. That verily I have not created mankind and the jinn except to worship me, right? That is the sole purpose of our creation, so that we have to find a way to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything that we do, whether it is in our work, whether it is in our homes, whether it is whatever it is, right? If it's not the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's not necessarily what you were intended to do in this earth. It may be a means, it may be something that you can do in this world because it is there, but it may not be something that you were created for that particular purpose. So the purpose that you are created for, though, is the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So find the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything that you do, then you will be fulfilling your purpose. Be neglectful of Allah's worship in everything that you do, and you are not fulfilling your purpose as to why you were created. Interestingly enough, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala couples the purpose of creation with مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُم مِّن رِزْقٍ. He couples it with rizq, provisions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't require us to provide for Him. مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُم مِّن رِزْقٍ. I don't want anything in return. I don't want any provisions. I don't need any of those things, right? That's what basically Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَن يُطْعِمُونَ. And I don't need them to feed me, right? I don't need any sustenance of any sort whatsoever. إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ ذُو الْقُوَّةِ الْمَتِينَ. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who provides for every single thing that you can see around you, yourself and everything you see around you. From the birds to the beasts to the plants to everything in the air and everything in the sea, right? ذُو الْقُوَّةِ الْمَتِينَ. He is like the strong, right? The able over everything. So the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has coupled this with our provisions is because the provisions is the main thing that is the distraction between us and the Almighty, between us and the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, between us and fulfilling our purpose, right? We spoke a little bit about the dunya and how that's different to the alam and stuff like that, right? Al-alameen. And the dunya is basically like sort of the main thing in it is acquiring sort of wealth and excess, right? So you can say, a person can say that, I work in order to feed myself and my family, right? And I earn money in order to do that. Whilst that may be the case, that'll only mean that you only need to work just like a small amount, if that's all you need to do, right? Have a roof over their head and feed them. But for the most part, it's a little bit more than that, right? So you're not happy with just like a 1-bedroom flat, right? You want a house, ideally semi-detached, with a decent garden so that you can play around in the summer with your kids, right? You want to get a sort of a decent job in the city as well, something that's respectable and reputable amongst your peers, and that sort of thing, right? So all of these things are added to what is just your provision. So it becomes like a status symbol. It becomes something like an egotistical nature that I'm somehow better than others because I have this and they don't have this, right? And the person who doesn't have what I have is somehow missing out, and so on and so forth. Whatever, like however you want to look at it, I don't want to go into too much detail, but there's all these layers added to provisions, right? All these layers added to what is considered just your rizq, right? And because of those layers are layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of ego and of pride and of status and of all those other constructs that we have created in our own minds, right? They are those that they serve as barriers between us and the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And even when we think we're doing right, even when we think we're doing good, there's actually, it's our good deeds are like, they are mixed up with riyah, and we're like showing off. And, when we give in charity, we let everybody know that we're giving charity and this is how much I've given, right? All that jazz, right? So it's somehow like, the ikhlas factor, that those things that are done sincerely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are now missing. And if they are there, and if there is some form of worship there is a lot of element of the dunya mixed up within that. So it's not lillahi, ala lillahi ad-dinul khalis. It's not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exclusively, right? So that's an interesting it's an interesting relationship between the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fulfilling your purpose in life and provisions that you have to acquire, right? You have to go through this life. You have to earn a living. You have to have a house, right? You have to have a roof over your head. You're not going to live in the street with no money for the rest of your life, right? So it's almost like there has to be some form of balance, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is drawing out this balance. And it's almost as if like the talk of the hereafter and the akhirah and stuff like that, that provides us that balance. Nothing else in the dunya is going to be able to allow us to balance between, the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and, what we see in our worldly life. Nothing is going to do that except the remembrance of the afterlife, remembrance of death, remembrance of meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the rewards that are waiting for those who do good, and the punishments that are waiting for those who do evil. That's a little bit about Surah Al-Dhariyat. Then we go on to Surah At-Tur. At-Tur, named after the Mount of At-Tur, which is the mountain in which Musa alayhi salam received revelation on. Let me just refresh my memory. Okay, it's another early Meccan surah, and it starts with it's a really cool beginning as well. Wat-Tur, so he swears by the mountain, At-Tur, wa kitabin mastur, and the book which is written, fi raqqin manshur, on a preserved tablet, wal bayt al-ma'mur, and the Bayt al-Ma'mur, the oft visited house. This could either refer to Mecca, or it could refer to this place where it's said that it is in direct correlation between the earth and the heavens with the Kaaba. But it is a place where 78,000 angels go to on a daily basis, if not more, and they never return from going to this place. And they go to this place solely to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And an amazing creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which shows firstly his majesty, secondly his riches, that he's not required for us to worship Allah, right? And if you think about it, we shouldn't draw any pride or haughtiness from the fact that we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there shouldn't be any negative jealousy with regards to the deen. There shouldn't be anything dunya related with regards to the deen, because when you worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are worshiping Allah for your own self, right? Not for anybody else, and not for Allah, certainly, right? And when you put that into perspective, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't even need your worship, because he has creations all over this world, right? وَلَكِنْ لَا تَفْقَهُونَ تَسْبِيحَهُم, except that we don't understand how they are doing the tasbih of Allah. Or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created angels that do this purpose anyway. They fulfill this purpose anyway, right? So it's amazing to see where mankind kind of falls in the spectrum of the worship of Allah. We're somewhere between. Allah's got everything worshipping him already. So Allah has favored us in the sense that he has given us that quality also. But somewhere, between that and giving us the free will, if you like, to decide not to worship Allah as well, right? And being at that detriment. So it's very interesting how that's all come about. وَالسَّقْفِ الْمَعْمُورِ, and the high canopy, the canopy that is raised. وَالْبَحْرِ الْمَسْجُورِ, and the seas that are on fire. This is an amazing concept. On the Day of Judgment, the seas that we see around us, right, the water around us, that will be set alight. That will catch fire. Water catching fire on the Day of Judgment. إِنَّ عَذَابَ رَبِّكَ لَوَاقِعٌ مَا لَهُ مِنْ دَافِعٍ. Verily, the punishment of your Lord is coming. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. مَا لَهُ مِنْ دَافِعٍ, and there is no one or nothing that can ever push it back. Then it goes on to say a few things about the majesty and creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, it goes on to say things about فَوَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ, the people of Jahannam. And it goes to take their account as well. And then the people of Jannah, إِنَّ الْمُتَّقِينَ فِي جَنَّاتٍ وَنَعِيمٍ, verse number 17. فَاكِهِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ وَوَقَاهُمْ رَبُّهُمْ عَذَابَ الْجَحِيمِ. They have protected them from the fire. What is amazing about this part is that the people of Jannah will actually reminisce from their previous life. I know someone was asking the other day about whether we will remember our life in this world. This surah actually talks about that and documents that. So in verse number 25, وَأَقْبَلَ بَعْضُهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. So the people in Jannah, they will turn to each other and they'll start speaking to each other in conversation. قَالُوا إِنَّا كُنَّا قَبْلُ فِي أَهْلِنَا مُشْفِقِينَ. That verily we were, in this world with our families, and we were amongst them and so on and so forth. فَمَنَّ اللَّهُ عَلَيْنَا وَوَقَانَا عَذَابَ السَّمُومِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He favored us and He showed His favor to us by saving us from the torment of the blazing fire. إِنَّا كُنَّا مِن قَبْلُ نَدْعُوهُ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْبَرُّ الرَّحِيمُ. I remember that we used to call upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What an amazing reward that He has given us, right? إِنَّا كُنَّا مِن قَبْلُ نَدْعُوهُ إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْبَرُّ الرَّحِيمُ. Verily He is the Barr, the righteous, right? He's done right by us. Ar-Rahim, and He's so compassionate and so merciful towards us, subhanAllah. And then it goes on to reassure the Prophet ﷺ that he's not going crazy. And then at the end of this surah, there are questions that warrant answers that are posed to those who have disbelieved, right? And those who deny anything that is related to Iman, and more importantly, those who deny the hereafter, that they have to answer. But they cannot answer except that they are just, opining. It's just conjecture, whatever they're saying. أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Were they created from nothing? Or were they themselves the creators of their own selves? أَمْ خَلَقُوا السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. Or did they create the heavens and the earth? Or did it just come from nothing? بَلْ لَا يُوقِنُونَ. But they are not certain of anything. They have loads of theories, they have loads of scientific, explanations for it. But are they 100% certain of it? No. أَمْ عِنْدَهُمْ خَزَائِنُ رَبِّكَ أَمْ هُمُ الْمُسَيْطِرُونَ. Or do they have all the treasures of their Lord? Or are they the ones who are in control of those treasures, where it goes? Who gets rizq and who doesn't get rizq? Who's in power and who's not in power? Who leads and who doesn't lead? أَمْ لَهُمْ سُلَّمٌ يَسْتَمِعُونَ فِيهِ فَلْيَأْتِ مُسْتَمِعُهُم بِسُلْطَانٍ مُبِينٍ. Or do they have a stairway where they go up to the heavens and they listen in and eavesdrop on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying? And if that is the case, then bring that person who has eavesdropped and let him tell us what he has heard. أَمْ لَهُ الْبَنَاتُ وَلَكُمُ الْبَنُونَ. Right? Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have daughters and they have sons? أَمْ تَسْأَلُهُمْ أَجْرًا فَهُمْ مِنْ مَغْرَمٍ مُثْقَلُونَ. And basically, that's really abstract in our day, right? Where Allah has daughters, because that belief, I don't think it lives on. Does it live on? Does anybody actually believe that anymore, that Allah has daughters and we have sons, right? Because we have daughters too, right? That's pretty obvious. So it's kind of a bit abstract, right? But what that actually means, right, is that for Allah are the gaps that are getting ever smaller, right? That is where Allah fills the unknown, right? And for us is everything else. We have the honor of knowing how this world works. We have the honor and status of power and dominion and governance. We have ability to extract from the land and the sea whatever we wish to extract with regards to energy, oil, and resources. We have the power over all of these things. Mankind, in his amazing intellect and ability to do all of these things. And what Allah has is anything that we don't know just yet, the gaps, right? The unknown gaps. And we're going to get there, and we're going to fill those gaps up until there is nothing left of Allah, right? So He has all the things that are meaningless, right? In terms of daughters, they don't bring strength to your tribe and so on and so forth. So they're meaningless, they're just cannon fodder. And for us is the real deal, right? That is basically the ideal. And it's not different to very much how we think today, or the society that we tend to mix with lives in today. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us steadfastness and guidance and teach us through the Qur'an, inshallah. Ameen. Anyway, so it goes on to state loads of questions, and then it ends with parting advice to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَاصْبِرْ لِحُكْمِ رَبِّكَ فَإِنَّكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا. So be patient with what your Lord has decreed, with what your Lord has decided. فَإِنَّكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا. Verily, you are under our watchful gaze. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking out for you. Allah is looking out for His message. Allah is looking out for your believers and those who follow you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking out for not just you, but for everybody also, right? فَإِنَّكَ بِأَعْيُنِنَا. But specifically the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is a sharaf sharaf. This is a position of honor and status for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ حِينَ تَقُومُ, and praise your Lord from the moment that you wake. وَمِنَ اللَّيْلِ فَسَبِّحْهُ وَإِدْبَارَ النُّجُومِ, and in the night when the stars are twinkling in the sky, or even when the stars are slowly disappearing in the sky, meaning that close to dawn. So in both extremities of the day, meaning all the time. And that concludes Surah At-Tur. Let me go into Surah An-Najm. Surah An-Najm is a quality surah, right? It's all about sort of praising the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and raising his stature with regards to how close he is to Allah, how connected he is with regards to the unseen, and how much better he is than pretty much anybody else, right? So it starts with وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى, right? By the star which fades, right? And the star that fades is also like an allusion to, you know, the dying planets. مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوَى, that your sahib, your companion, right? And he's talking to the kuffar of Quraysh, your companion is not misguided, nor has he gone astray. وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى, and he doesn't speak from his own whims and his desires. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَى, it is all revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said was revelation. And this is how we get the concept of the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how it is an authority in our lives. What the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, we do. Why? Because whatever he did, it wasn't out of his own whims and desires, rather it was revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As soon as that prophethood kicked in, revelation from Allah. علمه شديد القوى, right? Now he's going to talk about Jibreel, or Jibreel, Gabriel. علمه شديد القوى, who taught him was شديد القوى, the one who is, you know, extraordinarily strong. ذو مرة فاستوى, perfect in all of his attributes. Jibreel, perfect in all of his attributes, right? So something of perfection taught the perfect creation. ذو مرة فاستوى, فاستوى meaning he raised himself, and he raised himself, and what he's alluding to here is وهو بالأفق الأعلى حالة كونه في الأفق الأعلى. When the Prophet ﷺ, he saw Jibreel, and he saw Jibreel twice in his life, and he's going to, this surah alludes to those two times that he saw Jibreel alayhi salam twice in his life in his true form, should I add, because he saw him many times in human form and in other forms, but in his true form he only saw him twice. The first was when he first received revelation. He saw Jibreel alayhi salam come on the horizon, and it filled the entire horizon, that he couldn't see nothing but Jibreel coming towards him. And so the Prophet ﷺ fell unconscious when he saw him. The second was when he went to the Sidrat al-Muntaha. He went to that last point of creation where the lote tree was, where no other creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had ever surpassed that point, and where no other creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could ever surpass that point except Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ajib. Subhanallah. All right. وَهُوَ بِالْأُفُقِ الْأَعْلَى ثُمَّ دَنَا فَتَدَلَّى. So it counts the first meeting. ثُمَّ دَنَا فَتَدَلَّى. So Jibreel came close to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَكَانَ قَابَ قَوْسَيْنِ أَوْ أَدْنَى. So he was close enough for the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to touch, right? And قَابَ قَوْسَيْن, قَوْسَيْن is like the, you know, the bow. He was like 2 bow lengths away, right? But it basically means like he was right there in front of him. فَأَوْحَى إِلَى عَبْدِهِ مَا أَوْحَى. And then he revealed to his servant what he revealed. And he doesn't actually say, like, he revealed to the Prophet ﷺ, اقرأ بسم ربك الذي خلق, right? He doesn't specify what he revealed. He leaves it like sort of ambiguous to show that what he revealed to him was something amazing and something great. فَأَوْحَى إِلَى عَبْدِهِ مَا أَوْحَى مَا كَذَبَ الْفُؤَادُ مَا رَأَى. The Prophet ﷺ saw him with his waking eye, and he also saw him with his heart, right? The Prophet ﷺ he wasn't mistaken with what he saw. أَفَتُمَارُونَهُ عَلَى مَا يَرَى. Do you doubt what it is that he saw? وَلَقَدْ رَآهُ نَزْلَةً أُخْرَى. For verily he saw him a second time. In the Sidrat al-Muntaha, at the Sidrat al-Muntaha, at the lote tree. عندها جنة المأوى. Very close to where Jannat al-Ma'wa, where Jannah is situated. إذ يغشى سدرة ما يغشى ما زاغ البصر وما طغى لقد رأى من آيات ربه الكبرى. And he saw from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's amazing signs. Then the conversation switches from this conversation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is having with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of revelation, in terms of what he's seen. It's almost like reassurance to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, look, you know, you're upon the truth, And I have shown you things that these guys cannot even fathom. And these guys are sitting here telling you there's no such thing as akhirah. You think you're a prophet? Show us an angel. Dude, you have seen things that these guys can never even imagine to have seen. And then he tells the Prophet ﷺ what it is that these guys have actually seen. And what they have seen is أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى. Have you seen these idols, Allat and Uzza? And Lat was made of stone and Uzza was made of rock, or vice versa, the other way around, right? And these idols were created by their own hands. They had fashioned them, they had chiseled them, they had made them into gods by themselves. These are the things that they have seen. أَفَرَأَيْتُمُ اللَّاتَ وَالْعُزَّى. Right? And you, Ya Rasulullah, have seen the heavens and the earth. You have transcended. You have gone up to places where these guys will never go. Subhanallah. Anyway, then it goes on to debunk some of the things that they have concocted with regards to their false gods. And the reason why they've created these false gods, obviously, is to make those from the dunya subservient to them. So those people that they live with, their compatriots, their countrymen, those people who visit the sacred house and so on and so forth, in order to make them subservient to what they are upon, they create these false gods and they create these false laws that are associated with these gods in order that they may be forever subservient to them, right? So there is a system and you have to live by that system. And if you go out of that system, you are considered a criminal, even though that system was created by these people who are at the top, who probably don't even live by that same system anyway. Anyway, وَمَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ إِنْ يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ وَإِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا إِنَّ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ لَيُسَمُّونَ الْمَلَائِكَةَ تَسْمِيَةَ الْأُنْثَى. Verse number 27. Those who disbelieve in the hereafter, they will call the angels, the malaika, tasmiyat al-untha, by feminine names. They'll have feminine qualities, right? And we said a little bit before about what this means. وَمَا لَهُمْ بِهِ مِنْ عِلْمٍ. They have absolutely no knowledge of that whatsoever. They have no authority to give them those names. They have no authority to believe those things. إِن يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ. They are following nothing but hearsay. They are following nothing but doubts, and they are following nothing but conjecture. وَإِنَّ الظَّنَّ لَا يُغْنِي مِنَ الْحَقِّ شَيْئًا. And where is doubt from certainty in the truth? فَأَعْرِضْ عَمَّنْ تَوَلَّى عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَلَمْ يُرِدْ إِلَّا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. Verse number 29. So turn away from those who they themselves turn their backs on our remembrance. وَلَمْ يُرِدْ إِلَّا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. And they want nothing more than this worldly life, right? And hayat al-dunya, again, it's not the birds and the beasts and the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rather, they want power, dominion, status, right? They want their egos to be the first and foremost. They want themselves to be praised and worshipped, right? They want themselves to be praised. Words of affirmation be directed to them as opposed to Allah. Those people who want those things, right? Turn away from them, because your message is not going to get through to them. ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِّنَ الْعِلْمِ. Their knowledge, the limits of their knowledge, end with all of those constructs that they have created for themselves from their egos, from their pride, from their arrogance, from their worldly pursuits. That is what they know in life, to the point where you go to them in order to sort of speak to them about the akhirah, they're like, what crazy talk are you talking, right? And this sometimes permeates to the Muslims as well, right? So when we talk about this sort of stuff, we always think about, okay, non-Muslims, right? Because they don't know anything about the akhirah. But Muslims as well think like this, right? I think it was last Ramadan, a couple of brothers were telling me when we were doing the fundraiser for the extension project here, the redevelopment project at our masjid here, that they went to a few sort of well-off individuals from the Muslim community, mashallah, right? And they spoke to them about, this is, we're doing a redevelopment project, yada, yada, yada. And this is what we're going to do, and this is how it's going to be. And these are the new services that we're going to cater for the Muslim community with. And these are very much needed services, yada, 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 yada. So, donate, inshallah. And if you know friends that can donate as well, please tell them to do so. So the guy looked at the proposal, right? And they had a little brochure and stuff. The guy looked at the proposal and goes, so what do I get out of it? What's in it for me? Right? And then, he explained himself as if to say that I'm going to tell others about this. How am I supposed to sell it to them? Right? And it's like, this is for your akhirah. It's not for your dunya. You're not supposed to be getting anything out of it. This is, you're getting something out of it when in the akhirah, when you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not just that, you're increasing your iman, you're softening your heart, you're You're allowing yourself to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through this action, right? All of these things that are hidden, that are unseen, that are not associated with the causality of buying and selling, right? So these are all things that you can house for yourself. But ذَلِكَ مَبْلَغُهُم مِنَ الْعِلْمِ, because they are so caught up in the affairs of the dunya, that is the limits of their knowledge. When they see the things that are pertaining to deen, they ask dunya related questions with regards to the deen, right? As if there's some sort of causality between praying and getting finding happiness in this world, right? Or there's some sort of causality between praying and getting rich, right? It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all, right? ذلك مبلغهم من العلم إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بمن اهتدى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He knows who has gone astray and who has been guided upon his way. Then there is the curious account of Al-Walid ibn Mughira in this surah. أفرأيت الذي تولى, in verse number 33. وأعطى قليلا وأكدى. This is the story of Al-Walid ibn Mughira. Al-Walid ibn Mughira, he was told about Islam, and Islam was given to him on a silver platter for him to adopt as his way of life. And he did so. And he followed the way of the Prophet ﷺ for a very, very short time. And then when one of his companions had heard, one of the friends of Walid ibn Mughira had heard that he had come to Islam, he came to him and he said to him, look, allow this, man. What have you done? This is a terrible thing that you left the deen of your forefathers and so on and so forth. So he coerced him to leave the religion. And when Al-Walid ibn Mughira said that, look, if I leave the religion of Islam, there's going to be a punishment for me in the akhirah and so on and so forth, his companion said, look, give me a fee, pay me, and I will take care of the punishment for you in the akhirah. What a transaction. What a sale, man. What a pitch. Right? I will take care of the punishment in the akhirah for you for a small fee in this world. Ajib. So Al-Walid ibn Mughira, he left Islam and he paid this guy, and he paid him a small amount, and then he ended up not paying him the rest of what they had agreed, that the amount that he was going to be paid, right? وَأَعْطَى قَلِيلًا وَأَكْدَى. So he paid a small amount and then he turned away. Ajib. So quite sort of like funny in the sort of the grand scheme of things, but very grave affair to have turned away from the remembrance of Allah. Anyway, so that's a small snippet of Surah An-Najm. Next is Surah Al-Qamar. Where are we? Ar-Rahman, Waqi'an, Hadith. Okay, let's do Qamar and then we'll go to some questions, inshallah. So Surah Al-Qamar is another Meccan surah. It begins with the amazing account of the splitting of the moon. So the Prophet ﷺ, one of his miracles was that he split the moon, and that was in front of the kuffar of Quraysh, and there were eyewitnesses that saw it from inside and outside of Mecca as well, and all sorts, right? Despite that event taking place, and that event like sort of in your face, like where you can see it, something that is out of this world, that no sort of living person can possibly do. This happened in front of them, and they still disbelieved in it, and they still disbelieved that he was a messenger. And they said that this is just magic you were doing before, and magic that you continue to do. Despite these manifest signs and other signs coming like that, and despite them knowing the accounts of the people of before, they still disappear. There are 5 stories in this particular surah. The story of Nuh alayhi salam is going to be documented in very briefly. There's no detail in it whatsoever. Ad, the people of Ad, the people of Thamud, the people of Lut alayhi salam, and Fir'aun and his people. Those 5 stories. Now, after each of those stories, an ayah is going to be sort of pronounced by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. We have verily made this Qur'an easy to remember. So is there anybody that will truly remember? Right? وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. And it said after each of these stories, meaning that in these stories there's a reminder for you guys. All you have to do is just account for them, and that's it. And because it's easy to remember. Why? Because it's repetitions. It comes again and again and again. How many times have we had the story of Nuh alayhi salam? How many times have we heard about Ad and Thamud and Lut and Fir'aun and all these other prophets and messengers that came to their people that aren't mentioned in this surah, right? Countless number of times. Easy to remember, right? And it's so easy to remember that all of these things are housed in Surah Al-Fatiha that we said before, right? So everything that is mentioned in the Qur'an is summarized in Surah Al-Fatiha. And each and every one of us remembers Surah Al-Fatiha, right? And we recite it every single day, at least 17 times in every rak'ah, right? About fard salah. So if we're doing that, then وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Then the surah ends with glad tidings for the believers, and then the following surah is Surah Ar-Rahman, which is the merciful and the compassionate, which is a beautiful way to transition into that surah. So let us cover that surah, inshallah. But let's take a break because your brother needs a break. And let's see what's happening in the world of comments and questions, inshallah. So we'll start with Zoom. We'll break tradition and see what's happening in Zoom first, and then we'll come to YouTube later. Zak Rahman is saying, please say hello to me. Oh, from Yahya, who's 5 years old. Yahya, hello. Assalamu alaikum to you. Mom and Mom, you're saying you didn't cover Hujurat. I think I covered Al-Hujurat. Remind me if I covered Al-Hujurat or not. It was very brief. I know that it was very brief, but I think I covered it. It teaches the etiquettes of life. Could you please say the number of ayat you are explaining? Yes, I'm trying to, but obviously I've got a lot to cover and a lot to do, so sometimes I skip that. So inshallah, please forgive me if you're having trouble keeping up. Suhail Mansaf, walaikum salam. Anonymous attendee. Brother, someone gave money to me until the day she needs it back. However, I took that money to take my parents to Hajj, and alhamdulillah, I gave the money back to her when she needed it. Is my parents' Hajj accepted? Jazakallah khair for the talk. Barakallahu fiqh. Okay, so this is regards to money that is left in your care and something that is left in your trust. So if there was any condition that she stipulated that you're not allowed to use this money for any reason whatsoever, and you're not allowed to touch this money, then there would be some question as to whether that Hajj was whether you were allowed to use that money for your parents' Hajj. If there was no condition stipulated, then you are able to use that as long as you are able to repay or replenish the funds that you have taken from that pot. So inshallah, if she hasn't stipulated anything, then your parents' Hajj is inshallah Hajjun Mabrur. What is the purpose of creation? Why has Allah created us? وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ لِيَعْبُدُونَ, to worship Allah. What is the difference between backbiting and accounting people in authority, like the woman who accounted Umar for limiting the marriage mahar? Okay, so that instance that was done in Umar's face, so that can't be backbiting even if it was. So that's her telling him in front of his face. So backbiting is done in the absence of the person that you are speaking about. It's usually done with something that they dislike, even if it is true about them. But holding people to account in authority is by holding them to account, by speaking to them, by going to them and telling them, what you're doing is wrong and you should do X, Y, Z. So I think that's quite a stark difference between the two. So that's not considered. It won't be considered backbiting because it's done to them. Is it better to recite Qur'an silent or audible if people around you will hear you? That depends, I suppose. Like, if you want others to benefit from your recitation, then reciting it in an audible voice will be good. But if it's going to disturb others are praying, for example, then you should recite it silently or in a lower voice that doesn't disturb others. So there's it's different scenarios and different actions for those different scenarios. What is zuhud? Oh, zuhud. There's a lot of O's in your zuhud. It's ZUHOOD. Zuhud. So what is zuhud? Zuhud, is it detachment from all the dunya and the worldly affairs, or using these things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's both of those things. So detaching yourself from worldly life and worldly affairs, it doesn't necessarily mean that you don't own anything in this world, right? That you're just like this poor beggar man who lives with tattered garments and living on the streets. That is you detaching yourself from anything that is concerned with the dunya with regards to owning a home and having an income and having a family and that sort of thing. So it's detachment from your heart, not detachment in the physical form. So you can have all of the things in the dunya. Imam Malik, rahimahullah, wa radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he was one of the richest of the Imams. Imam Abu Hanifa, also one of the richest of the Imams. The companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Uthman ibn Affan, richest of the companions as well. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, hadith wala haraj, right? Rich companions. But they had a zuhud in their heart that, surpassed everybody else, right? Because the things that they owned in the dunya, they didn't own their heart, right? And which sort of, I remember there was a question that came up in the early sessions, was that, what's the line that's drawn between, having too much of the dunya, and I think it was like pair of shoes or jackets or something like that. If I have like 9 jackets or 7 jackets, or I can't remember the example that they gave, right? But it was something along the lines of like, where's the line that is drawn that is excess? And it's excess when when this stuff it owns your heart, right? The line between the deen and the dunya, right? When does the dunya start taking over? Is when it starts to own your heart. When it's difficult for you to part with the things that you own. When you love these things more than you love the akhirah. When you love these things more than you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you were given a choice between worshipping Allah and preserving and protecting these things, you would rather protect the things that you own in the dunya as opposed to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So using these things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is zuhud. And these things not overcoming your heart and taking control, where your decisions are made based on them, on your material possessions, then that is also zuhud, or zuhud, as it is more commonly known in our circles. Okay, a colleague of mine approached me as they are interested in Islam and asked for a recommendation on what to read. Can you let me know to approach this situation and any recommendations for reading the Qur'an? Give them a translation of the Qur'an, a copy of the Qur'an, and maybe the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the sealed nectar or something like that, something that is translated into English that is pretty good. Give them these books. That is the best place to start for anybody who is interested in Islam. And let them draw their own conclusions, and sort of put them in touch with someone who is well versed in their deen as well, so that if they have any questions with regards to what they're reading in the Quran and any misconceptions that they might have, then they can also be answered, inshallah. But there's nothing better than giving them the Quran. Amen. There we go. Alaikum salam. We know that non-believers go to Jahannam. So should we sugarcoat when a non-believer dies, when we offer our condolences to say that they are in a better place? Sorry for the structure of the question. The fast is getting to me. I know how that feels, Amen. Don't worry. Do you need to say that? How do you even know, right? Even a believer that passes away, right? How do you know that they've gone to a better place? How do you know that they, So it's these affairs. They're left to Allah. Allah judges between His creation, and He apportions to them whether they go to Jannah or Jahannam. So we don't know where we're going in the akhirah, whether they died upon Islam or they died upon kufr. So there's no reason to say that in the first place, right? That they've gone to a better place. Rather, it's a reminder for us, and we have to be real about those sorts of things as well, right? So while there's an element of condolence and stuff for those who have passed away, and obviously we express that. But there is an element of reality in there as well, that look, this is going to be our end as well. And if we don't fix up and change our ways, then what are we going to die upon as well? So, and obviously there's a time and a place for all of those things. There's a time for sending your condolences. There's a time of consoling those who are grieving, and there's also a time of reminders as well. So it's not that you go into you go in the wake and just stand up in front of everyone and be like, guys, this is going to be your end as well. Watch out. Nothing like that, yeah. Inshallah. All right. What does it mean that your status in paradise will be according to the last ayah you read in the Quran? So that is, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you enter into Jannah, Allah grants you entrance into Jannah through His mercy. And whilst you're in Jannah, the level that you will go to from the 8 levels of Jannah is going to be based on your deeds. And one of the deeds, your righteous deeds that you do, is the recitation of the Quran. And the amount you recite it, and the number of times you recite it, and the number of times you go through it is sort of depending on how many times and depending on where and when. That's the sort of the level that you will be at with regards to the Qur'an. And that's just concerning the Qur'an as well. So there are other deeds as well that will raise you in ranks in Jannah. So that's what that means, according to the last ayah read. So not that there's only 6,236 levels because that's how many ayat there are. No, it's based on how often you recite it and how many times you recite it as well. So that's why there was a lot of emphasis on doing a khatam of the Qur'an with regards to the companions and the early Salaf, the early Muslims. They would finish the Qur'an regularly. We do it every Ramadan, but they used to do it every week, and some even every day. Why does Allah not only forgive the sins of man till the age of 60? What happens after the age of 60? He forgives people after 60 as well. If you admire a certain group, would you be grouped with them during Yawm al-Qiyamah? And will this affect your judgment? Yeah, so you will be raised with those whom you love. So we love the messenger, we love the companions, we love to be like them, even though we're not from amongst them. We love the salihun and those who do righteous deeds, even though we don't do righteous deeds ourselves. If we have that love for them and that reverence for them and that respect for them, you will be raised with them, inshallah ta'ala. Yeah, that does affect your judgment in the sense that you'll be raised from amongst that group of people, even though you didn't necessarily do the same actions that they did. Mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, man. Can a female lead prayer of the parent if the parent is more knowledgeable in Islam than the siblings? The parent and the siblings? Okay, I don't understand the scenario, but so with regards to women leading as imams and stuff like that, obviously we have to follow the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his example. And his example was that men were put as the imams in prayer. And that's during his life, after his life, the understanding of the companions as well. Even when opportunities arose for women to lead, men were put as sort of imams. So in terms of leading the prayer, that is a role exclusive for males. Alaikum salam. When you complete reading the Qur'an, can you explain the process for sujoods that are required? Yeah, I think we touched upon the sujood al-tilawa a little bit. I think in Surah, I can't remember which one it was now. I think it might have been Naml. I'm not sure. But we touched on sujood al-tilawa previously. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh Hamid. Is Forex trading haram or other online trading? See a lot of Muslim people showing off how much profit they make on social media. Sorry, I don't understand all of this. Yeah, me too. It's a bit of a strange world, the world of Forex and trading and shares and stocks and futures and all that. The vast majority of it is ribawi, the vast majority of it. They may be trading in those things that aren't related to riba, maybe, I don't know. But the vast majority of it is ribawi. So, and it's quite intricate as well, and there's a lot of things to look into. There are certain elements of it that are deemed permissible, but that I think that requires more time to go through. Assalamu alaikum. Can we do a session on making a will, inshallah, with reference to Qur'an and Hadith, inshallah? Okay. I think if there's no other questions, are there more questions that came? Okay, there are. So presumably you can attend a person's funeral who is not a Muslim. Yeah, why not? But not the actual church service. Well, that depends, I suppose, on who he is to you. You can certainly sort of attend sort of the burial and stuff like that, and you can send condolences to their family, and you can visit the family and stuff like that. Maybe not the service itself, because that may be seen as sort of an act of worship, and you being there. But then obviously, you have to be open-minded and have an open heart as well to them. You yourself going there, you yourself know you're not attending that service in order to take part in it, and you believe in what they're saying about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost and stuff like that. But you're there solely to console the family and to show your condolences and stuff like that. So if that means that the opportunity is there at the church, then that so be it. So Yeah, so I think every situation requires a specific look into, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum myself. Wa alaikum salam. Is there any basis in the Sunnah or the Qur'an for khatams which are common in the Indo-Pak community? Yes, the Indo-Pak, the legendary Indo-Paks. Shout out to all the Indo-Paks out there listening in. So the khatams, this is called Isad al-Sawab, where you recite the Qur'an in its entirety and you make dua for the reward of which to go to the deceased. Now there is a difference of opinion whether that is acceptable in the fiqh, in terms of fiqh, or whether it is something that isn't sort of, the reward actually doesn't actually reach the deceased. And because it's a differed upon opinion, the people who do it, there's no qualms on them, there's no harms on them to do it. And the people who abstain from it and don't do it, there's also no harm for them not to do it either. But it does have a basis in the Sharia. Are pensions haram as monies are invested in the stock market? Oh, that's a detailed question. I don't know if I have the answer to that. Is it haram to work in a place like McDonald's or Tesco where they sell alcohol and pork? Is your salary considered haram money? So there's a little bit of a difference with regards to whether selling or working for a place that does all of this stuff and consuming that stuff. Are they one and the same thing? So it's haram to consume, but it is haram to sell. Is it haram to sell? Is it not haram to sell? Is that sale valid? Is it not valid? Because these things are considered najis. So working in McDonald's, whilst that's not the only thing that is bought and sold there, that is part of the things that are bought and sold there, and so on and so forth. And we live in a very complex world where it's almost like we can't sort of be free from haram in anything that we do now. So whether it's working at a restaurant like McDonald's, for example, is it permissible to work there or not work there, and so on and so forth. So a little bit detailed, but we like to simplify things as much as possible with regards to these sorts of things. So the intent there isn't to sell pork and alcohol. Whilst there are jobs, alternatives, there's 1,000,001 other places to work other than these places. If you can find a job elsewhere, and then wicked. But if you find yourself working in those places, and then you recognize and you're asking these questions about, okay, am I allowed to actually work here? Then the ulama, they usually say that continue to work there until you can find another job, and your salary is not going to be considered haram money because this is the only form of income that you can find currently. But for a person who's from the outside looking in, so I don't work at McDonald's right now, but I say to myself, you know what, let me work in McDonald's because the pay is good there and the perks are good there, and they're selling sort of haram food, especially pork. Then that won't be permissible. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Okay, let's get back to our synopsis, inshallah. Some good questions there, by the way, guys, mashallah. Hats off to you guys. Okay, so Surah Ar-Rahman. Surah Ar-Rahman is a legendary surah, one which we all associate ourselves with, one that we're all connected with, mashallah. A little bit of trivia for you guys. There is a sentence in this surah that is often quoted, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. How many times is this sentence or is this ayah mentioned in Surah Ar-Rahman? Let me know your answers, inshallah. So Surah Ar-Rahman is one that we all associate ourselves with, right? We're all connected with, right? And it's one of those surahs that even when we are sort of in Taraweeh, right? The whole of Ramadan goes, we have absolutely no clue what the Imam is reciting. He's going through the entire Qur'an and we're sitting there, like standing there silently with our hands folded, looking down at our place of sujood. As soon as Ar-Rahman begins to be recited, you find all of these sort of whispers in the crowd and the people are reciting on, right, with the Imam. SubhanAllah. So we're all connected with the surah. We all love to read this surah. And it's one of those surahs that are really, really easy to memorize because of the oft repeated and oft quoted verse. Thames is early in on the action with 31. So this ayah is repeated 31 times in the Quran. Yeah, Sabi, 31 or 32 or even 37. Where are you going, bro? So 31 times. It is repeated 31 times in this surah. And this is what makes this surah unique. One of the things that it also makes it unique is that it directs its speech to both mankind and the jinn folk. فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ أَنْتُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. You two groups of people. Which of the favors of your Lord will you two deny? And what it means by that is the jinn and the ins. And very seldom does the Quran address both parties together. It's talking about the jinn in some ayat, and he's talking about mankind in other ayat. But here he's talking about both of them separately in one discourse. It begins with Ar-Rahman, right? Merciful, compassionate, right? Oft forgiving. However you want to translate Ar-Rahman with, it can mean all of those things. So Ar-Rahman, Allama al-Qur'an, the one who taught this Qur'an, right? It's not the most knowledgeable that taught this Qur'an, it is the most compassionate. It is the most merciful. This Qur'an is a mercy taught to you by the most merciful, sent through the one that was sent as a mercy to mankind. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ خَلَقَ الْإِنسَانَ عَلَّمَهُ الْبَيَانَ. So the beginning part of this surah is all about the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? خلق الإنسان علمه البيان الشمس والقمر بحسبان والنجم والشجر يسجدان والسماء رفعها ووضع الميزان. All of these things that he's talking about with regards to the creation of the world. These are all favors in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has shown to mankind. وأقيموا الوزن بالقسط ولا تخسروا الميزان والأرض وضعها للأنام فيها فاكهة والنخل ذات الأكمام والحب ذو العصف والريحان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. It first comes in verse number 13. So the first section of this surah is all about the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار وخلق الجان من مارج من نار فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان رب المشرقين ورب المغربين. The east and the west, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created all of these things. مرج البحرين يلتقيان, the meeting of the two seas. بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان, there is a parting and there's a partition between them. Amazing sight, right? I've never seen this in real life, but I've seen pictures of it, and it just looks like, subhanallah, amazing. يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان, that's where the pearls and treasures of the seas are found. So all of this beginning section is about the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then it goes on to the scenes of those who deny the resurrection, what it's going to be like for them, right? يوم القيامة, what's going to happen, right? سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران. So it's like fireballs of hot iron and brass are all going to fall from the skies upon you, right? On يوم القيامة. فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان, and like the skies will be split asunder and they'll be torn apart. فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان. And on that day, the ins and the jan are going to be asked about what they did. يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم, and the evildoers, those who have wronged themselves and they have oppressed others and so on and so forth, those people are going to be known by their by signs that are upon them. بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام, and they're going to be taken by their hair, and they're going to be dragged, and they're going to be taken by the ankles, and they're going to be dragged by their feet. هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون. This right here, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to show Jahannam. This is Jahannam that those who the naysayers they used to deny. يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن, and they are going to do tawaf, يطوفون, right, within Jahannam. فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان. This is very strange, right? Where this sort of this kind of subject matter falls under a surah that is considered the most compassionate and the most merciful, right? It's a bit like opposites, right? And how is this a favor by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon mankind and upon the jinn folk, right? Where does this fall under? The reason why that is because those who do injustice, right? Those who oppress, those who commit like all sorts of wrong things in this world, right? They think that they're going to go scot-free, they're going to get off the hook, and nothing is going to happen to them in this world. But Yawm al-Qiyamah will come and they will have their just deserts. And also sort of death and Qiyamah and stuff like that, for the people in this world, death is seen as a mercy, because when the oppressor dies, his oppression dies with him, right? And when those who are oppressed, they die, then they are now alleviated of their oppression. And if they were patient and they were forbearing, through that they will be rewarded for all of the patience that they showed. And they will be rewarded with Jannah, which is the next part of this surah. So Jannah, gardens, 2 gardens will be mentioned here in this particular section in verse number 46. وَلِمَنْ خَافَ مَقَامَ رَبِّهِ جَنَّتَانِ. And whoever fears that state, right? Yawm al-Qiyamah, the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whoever is mindful and fears that day, then he will have 2 gardens. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on to explain what these gardens are like and what we'll have within it. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains another 2 gardens. وَمِن دُونِهِمَا جَنَّتَانِ. So they have 2 gardens, and then there's another 2 gardens, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains those 2 gardens as well. So 4 gardens altogether, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is explaining all of these things. And everything is in pairs, right? 2 gardens, jannatan, right? فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ. 2 groups of people, right? And then sort of towards the end, it's تَبَارَكَ اسْمُ رَبِّكَ ذِي الْجَلَالِ وَالْإِكْرَامِ. Blessed is the name of your Lord, full of majesty and honor. What an end to that particular surah. Now, the reason why notice how there's 3 groups, or there's 3 categories of people, right? There are those who are going to the Jahannam, the Mujrimun. There are those who have 2 gardens, and there are those who have 2 gardens above those 2 gardens, beyond those 2 gardens, more than those 2 gardens. Yeah. So those are 3 types, 3 groups of people. Now, the next surah, in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, is going to expound upon these 3 groups, right? So Al-Waqi'ah, if we go on to the next surah, Al-Waqi'ah is the inevitable event, aka Yawm al-Qiyamah. And in this surah, it's going to explain 3 groups to us. The first is وَكُنْتُمْ أَزْوَاجًا ثَلَاثًا. And you were 3. Sorry, I just hit the mic. And you were 3 groups. The first, أَصْحَابُ الْمَيْمَنَةِ مَا أَصْحَابُ الْمَيْمَنَةِ, right? The people who are on the right. وَأَصْحَابُ الْمَشْأَمَةِ مَا أَصْحَابُ الْمَشْأَمَةِ. And the people on the left. And this is alluding to the book that we're going to receive. The people who are righteous will receive the book in the right hand, and the people who are wrongdoers and oppressors, they will receive the book in the left hand. And then the third group is وَالسَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ الْمُقَرَّبُونَ. السَّابِقُونَ السَّابِقُونَ, they are the first and foremost. They were the first and foremost to believe. They are the first and foremost to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are the first and foremost to respond to the call of Allah and His Messenger. They are the first and foremost in their sincerity and worship to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything that they do, Allah comes first. Everything that they do, the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam comes first. السابقون السابقون أولئك المقربون. They are those who have been drawn close. في جنات النعيم ثلة من الأولين وقليل من الآخرين. They are many from amongst the first of you. So the first to believe amongst the companions. They are many from them. وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنَ الْآخِرِينَ. And they are very few from those who come after them. When Umar radiallahu anhu, he read this verse, he was really sad, right? He was like, how can it be that only a few of us are going to, get this reward and this favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? And then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes on later on to expound upon the Ashabul Yameen, who are also going to be in Jannah with these guys, ثُلَّةٌ مِّنَ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَثُلَّةٌ مِّنَ الْآخِرِينَ. There are going to be many from the first group, and there are going to be many from the groups that come later. And so when Umar radiallahu anh, it was almost as if these verses were revealed separately. So when Umar read this verse, and it was revealed that this verse, he was sad. And then later on, the verse with regards to the people who received the book in the right hand, that was revealed, and then he got happy, and then he was content that alhamdulillah, not all is lost. So we have 3 groups of people here. We have the Ashab al-Shimal, right? Those are people. Those who are going to receive their book in the left hand. They are mentioned in Surah Ar-Rahman as the Mujrimun, right? You have the people who are from the Ashab al-Yameen, right? They will receive the record in their right hand, and they are those who will receive 2 gardens, right? In Surah Ar-Rahman. And then you have as-Sabiqun as-Sabiqun, and they are the first and foremost to respond to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's call. They are the ones with 2 extra gardens beyond the 2 gardens already given to everybody else, right? So a really cool sort of correlation and connect between Surah Al-Waqi'ah and Surah Ar-Rahman. So while Ar-Rahman is all about mercy, the mercy of Allah and the bounties and favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Waqi'ah is all about Qiyamah and the recompense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows in terms of His retribution to creation. What time is iftar today? 58. Okay, mashallah. So we're on track. So hadith. Let's finish with hadith, inshallah. And if we have a little bit more time, let's go to some of the comments and questions, inshallah. Right. So hadith. Hadith is the first Medinan surah that we're going to see in a long list of Meccan surahs. Everything that we've seen so far, Waqi'ah, Ar-Rahman, Qaf, all of these surahs, they are all Meccan surahs revealed before the Hijrah. Al-Hadid comes, whack, we have a Medinan surah, right? And this surah is mainly about renewing Iman, right? Because it was revealed at a time in the Medinan period where, there was a lot of new faces coming into the Deen of Islam, right? And because they were new to Islam, they were obviously new to the practices. They were new a lot. They were new to the mindset and the way of living that a lot of the early Muslims were already accustomed to. So it was hard for them to adjust, and so it was almost like they were burdening the other Muslims with their heedlessness, with their lack of propriety, with their misunderstandings with regards to the deen and so on and so forth. So it's kind of like they were weighing them down. Like the Muslims were up here in terms of their iman, and you had guys that were down here, and they kept sort of like bringing them down with them, if you like. So this surah is mainly about renewing iman and providing those people who newly came into Islam with a base that perhaps they missed out on, that the earlier Muslims that they received with the many Meccan surahs that talk about a lot of the subject matter that is found within this surah. So it starts off with reminding everybody of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? له ملك السماوات والأرض يحيي ويميت وهو على كل شيء قدير هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم. So all of these like sort of magnificent verses that describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, describe His creation as well. Verse number 2 and 3, by the way, Mamiji, if you want to know which ayat I'm on. يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل. He brings the night and the day and the day and the night, and He brings them one after the other and never mixed together. وهو عليم بذات الصدور, and He knows exactly what is in the breast of every single person. So that is the opening. That's number 6. That was right. That's the opening of it. Then the second part of this surah is all about spending in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. آمنوا بالله ورسوله وأنفقوا مما جعلكم مستخلفين فيه. Believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and spend from which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made you inheritors of, right? So this wealth, this whatever you have in terms of material possessions in the dunya, spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is directly connected to your iman. Aminu billahi wa anfiqu, right? So the concept of charity and the concept of iman are very much interconnected one to another. The more charity you give, or the more, not maybe the more charity you give, the more susceptible you are to giving charity, the more open you are to giving charity, right? It could be just a pound, but you're giving a pound here, you're giving a pound there, you could be giving a pound there, right? The more open you are to charity, the more, the more that proves how strong your iman is, because charity is proven to soften your heart, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said it in many other places as well, about how that softens your heart, and how miserliness and stinginess that causes your heart to be hard. And anybody's heart that is soft permeates, iman permeates through it, and it establishes itself within their hearts. And anybody who has a hard heart, it's almost like their iman is bouncing off that, and it doesn't find any place of residence in that person's heart. وَمَا لَكُمْ أَلَّا تُنْفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلِلَّهِ مِيرَاثُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. What is wrong with you that you do not spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when to Allah belongs? Allah is the one who is going to inherit everything in this earth, everything in the heavens and the earth, right? Spend in the way of Allah, because this is all going to return to Allah. So whatever you spend in the way of Allah, you will see that when He inherits it, when He takes it back, right? So spend. لا يستوي منكم من أنفق من قبل الفتح وقاتل. Then the differentiation is made between those who spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before the conquest of Mecca, and those who spend in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after the conquest of Mecca. Then there is the differentiation between the believers and disbelievers on the Day of Judgment. يوم ترى المؤمنين والمؤمنات يسعى نورهم بين أيديهم وبأيمانهم. The day in which you will see the believers from the men and the believing women come on the Day of Judgment, and يسعى نورهم, their nur that will come, that will emanate from their own selves and on the right of them. It will emanate in front of them and on the right of them, right? يسعى نورهم بين أيديهم, in front of them, وبأيمانهم. Now the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says on the right of them is because of what they give for the sake of Allah, right? And you give with your right hand. So that is going to be a proof and a hujjah for you يوم القيامة, where it's going to be a light that's going to guide your way for you يوم القيامة. بشراكم اليوم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار. Glad tidings for you, this is Jannah, and so on and so forth. يوم يقول المنافقون والمنافقات. Then we skip to the munafiqun and the munafiqat. They say للذين آمنوا, to the believers, انظرونا نقتبس من نوركم. Allow us to take from some of your light. قيل ارجعوا وراءكم فالتمسوا نورا. Go back and seek some of your own light. You didn't spend in the dunya in the way of Allah. You didn't do anything of righteous deeds in the way of Allah. So now you are in darkness. And you want to take from our light. You tried to take from our dunya in the dunya. Now you want to take from our akhirah in the akhirah. Allow you, mate. Go find your own light. فالتمسوا نورا فضرب بينهم بسور له باب. And then an insurmountable, unscalable wall, it suddenly comes smack bang between those who believe and those who have nifaq and disbelief, right? The believers are going to be on one side, and on their side of the believers is going to be rahmah and mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and reward. And the guys on the other side, there is nothing but punishment and anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala waiting for them. They're going to call out to them, يُنَادُونَهُمْ أَلَمْ نَكُمْ مَعَكُمْ. Were we not from amongst you? Were we not with you in this life? Were we not believers? They will say, قَالُوا بَلَى. They will say, yes, you are with us, but in body only. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ. But you you put yourselves in difficulty, you put yourselves in trial. وَتَرَبَّصْتُمْ. And you procrastinated, right? Belief was there, Iman was there in front of you, the Prophet ﷺ was there in front of you, the message of the Qur'an was there in front of you. You knew it was true. In your heart of hearts, you knew it was true. And you knew that one day you had to return to it, but you procrastinated and you waited. You said, no, I'll do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow, do it tomorrow, until you died. وَارْتَبْتُمْ. And your procrastination led you to doubt. And you began to doubt, no, maybe it's not true. You know, I've been living this long and I haven't been following the commands of Allah and I've been doing okay. وَغَرَّتْكُمُ الْأَمَانِ. To the point where you believe now that you yourself were in control of your own destiny. You yourself had the power to overcome all the difficulties in your life. When hardship afflicts you, all you have to do is, buy this and spend on that and take care of this and, do that. And then I'll come out of hardship. وَغَرَّتْكُمُ الْأَمَانِ حَتَّى جَاءَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ. Until the command of Allah came and you died. وَغَرَّكُمْ بِاللَّهِ الْغَرُورِ. And you were deceived by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You were deceived with regards to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by a great deception. And that is what the dunya is, just a deception. فَالْيَوْمَ لَا يُؤْخَذُ مِنْكُمْ فِدْيَةٌ وَلَا مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. You will not be taken for a ransom at all. You or those who disbelieved, your place is the fire. So an amazing story that's taking place here, and it's all got to do with their iman in this dunya. Then it goes on to talk about the realities of the worldly life. اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر. So verse number 20. Verse number 20 is a wicked verse. Read it in your own time, right? Contemplate over it. It literally tells you the realities of this world. Amazing. And I think I've got a couple of khutbahs somewhere on the archives. You can check it out with regards to this verse. Wicked, wicked verse. And then it goes on, wicked meaning good. Disclaimer. And then ما أصاب من مصيبة في الأرض ولا في السماء ولا في أنفسكم إلا في كتاب من قبل أن نبرأها. So this is all about pre-decree. Verse number 22 and verse number 23. لكي لا تأسوا على ما فاتكم ولا تفرحوا بما آتاكم. The wisdom behind pre-decree. Muin, I know you were asking a lot about pre-decree, right? These two verses, read them. They tell you not necessarily why Allah decrees everything and so on and so forth, because Allah doesn't actually explain himself to anybody. But what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pointing out here is the wisdom behind the pre-decree. Have a read of that, contemplate it, and try to understand it, inshallah ta'ala. And then at the end of this surah is a reminder of the greatness of the messengers sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the messengers that were sent before him. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنا نُوحًا وَإِبْرَاهِيمَ وَجَعَلْنَا فِي ذُرِّيَّتِهِمُ النُّبُوَّةَ وَالْكِتَابَ ثُمَّ قَفَّيْنَا عَلَى آثَارِهِمْ بِرُسُلِنَا وَقَفَّيْنَا بِعِيسَى بْنِ مَرْيَمَ وَآتَيْنَاهُ الْإِنْجِيلَ, and so on and so forth. Verses number 25, 26, 27. The greatness of the messengers that have come. So the surah started with the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it ended with the greatness of the messengers. And between that is your iman and your charitable nature. And what a great surah this is. So please take your time out, inshallah, in your own time to go through it if you can. I think we'll stop there, inshallah ta'ala. Speaking of charitable things, we have INL 50/50, which is a new campaign. It's very difficult to give charity in terms of supporting the masjid and the sort of extension project and the redevelopment project, but we've housed the two. Go on our website to find out more information about INL 50/50 and how you can help, inshallah. There are loads of questions that you guys have put on since we stopped the question and answer. Inshallah, I'll go through them another time. I'll make note of them, just like I've made note of other questions too, and inshallah we will deal with them in due course. بارك الله لنا في القرآن الحكيم ونفعنا الله بآياته والذكر الحكيم. جزاكم الله خيرا for listening. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله